I think we should start, yes, because we have only 30 minutes for discussing and share your experience. So from my side, a really warm welcome to you all. Yes, we have the topic today of our session is from startup to scale up. Yes, and we have fantastic members here in the panel, which should be good. You can introduce yourself. First of all, I like to say we had a tech report from Impact Ventures and Hayes together last year. And the report figured out what are the big or the challenges for startups in their early stage season, yes. And we had 3 topics which were very big. One topic was how to get the funding, how to get investments, how to get money, or the way from funding to finally get the investment. The second topic is how to build a customer base and get clients, so that at the end you have to sell a product. Yes, that's the reason why you do that. And also the pressure is on how is the marketing, how is the brand of your companies? Yes, that's the 3 big topics we are discussing about. And I would go in line with you, that you introduce yourself. My name is Marco from Hayes. I'm based in Berlin, here responsible for techs. And Berlin is a city of startups because 80% of the investments in Germany goes to Berlin, and we do a lot of business with startups right here. Yes, so maybe you can introduce yourself in a line, one after another. I think we start with George. Yes, that you can say something to your position, and maybe in one sentence, if it's possible, what is company doing?
Yes, so we're developing a medical device that enables doctors to remove specific compounds from the bloodstream of patients in order to address various different clinical problems. That's the one sentence.
That's the one sentence.
If you want me to go further.
And I forgot you're from Mediciv. Huh?
I'm from Mediciv, yes. I'm the regional winner, or we're the regional winners, I should say, for the competition.
Yeah. That's good. And you also have an expo stand right here. Where can people go and check in? And if they have requests, they can come to you. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a booth available in the expo, and you can also contact us. My colleague Alina is online as well, so we're available to answer any questions about the company that anyone has.
So now, Jason from Equal One Labs.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Jason Lynch. I'm COO from Equal One Labs. We were also one of the pitching companies this morning. So we were the winner of the Island of Ireland section. We're designing quantum computers. So that's obviously a very big topic. We can talk about fundraising, and all that goes into that. My own background, I've been with various big companies, Analog Devices, and obviously for the last couple of years with Equal One Labs.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Jason. Now, Zena, please, from Linkie Solicitors. I hope the pronunciation was right.
Yeah, that's correct. My name is Jana. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Linkie Solicitors. We're boutique law firm essentially that specializes in startup and scale-up operations. So we assist with employment, corporate, litigation matters, and have grown quite a bit over the last couple of years. And based in London at the moment, but my team essentially and the consultants are based in different parts of the world, including in Germany as well, which is quite interesting. And I'm here to sort of pitch in on, I guess, more gloom and doom side of things, but also to help out if anybody needs assistance or advice on fundraisings. That's my personal area of expertise. So what I do is mostly corporate.
Thank you very much, Jenna. Now we come to Nick from NetWest. Your micro on, please.
Nick, you're on mute.
Unmute right now. Nick, you're unmute. The sign is also unmute. We can't hear you, but you can hear us, I think.
Perhaps I should just continue in the meantime, Marco,
Yes,
just with a quick
sounds
introduction
good.
while we wait for Nick. So
Yeah.
yes, Philip Marais. I'm the startup program leader for UK, Ireland, and Northern Europe for OVH Cloud. We are a leading European cloud provider. We've got more than 30 global water-cooled data centers around the world, serving 1.6 million customers with data sovereign solutions. And the startup program itself provides a concierge journey onto our cloud for startups and scale-ups. That includes up to €100,000 in free cloud credits and also a free time with a solution architect. We've got a virtual stand at the event later on. So looking forward to engaging with people there. Yeah, that's all from me.
Yes, thank you very much. So Nick, how is it going? I hear myself a little bit double. I don't know. Well, okay, we go further with the questions. Now, George, I think we start with a question because this stage is about you share your experience you had in the early stage. And my question to you is, as a medtech scale-up that has navigated through the early stage of your product development to scale, what are the main challenges you have faced and you have overcome right now?
Yeah, so
a
I
long
think
question, I know.
In our case, we very much are navigating, through. But for some context, we've been going for a little over 5 years. It was just me when we started up. We've now got 13 full-time employees, about 5 part-time who help us. When I look back at when I started out, I think the biggest thing is I underestimated the magnitude of what we were trying to do in terms of not just the technology, but the validation that goes alongside that, and then the company that enables all of that to happen. So the biggest challenge for us from a product perspective has been regulatory, understanding how our product fits into the regulatory pathway, how we navigate that, what we need to do, how we validate it, and how we document it, and how we control that documentation. Huge piece of work. And then the other one is, as you go through this period of doubling in size every few months, you go from 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 and 4 to 8 people. The company changes and you're no longer a 2 or 3 person startup, all in the same room, legs under the same table. And you start having to define structure in terms of roles, how the company works, who's manager, what are your HR policies, what are your health and safety policies, how do you manage data, personnel, independent issues, and all of those things. And that was a really big challenge for me personally, because I had a slightly romanticized view of what a startup should be. And one of them was not corporate. And as we've grown, I've learned that actually a lot of the things that we consider corporate are there for a very good reason. And it's to make things more efficient and to enable people to actually have the information and resources they need to deliver on the jobs we're asking them to do. So I would say, yeah, those 2 things, regulatory and then just management of a growing team.
Yeah, but that's typical for the medical scene, I think, about regulatories, and because you have different regulatories in different countries, huh? That's also a problem, I think, if you want to expand in other countries.
Exactly right. And it also touches upon activities that are outside of your immediate control when it comes to manufacturing and the controls around there. And you're right, our sector is famous for being particularly challenging, of course, yes. From a regulatory perspective. I would caution anyone making a product to not underestimate the regulatory requirements. I think there are a lot of industries where the regulatory requirements are a lot higher than one might initially think. Pick up any object immediately in front or around you, and somewhere on that object you will find a little symbol that says CE, and that CE is very valuable and sometimes much more difficult to obtain than you might originally think.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, George. Now, Jason, we come to you. My question to you is how you have experience raising millions of euros funding. What have you learned as a company in this journey, and what is the tips what you give to other founders looking to raise the further investments? Also, how to get them in the end?
Sure, absolutely. So maybe three areas that I'd focus on, right? I think the first area is around non-dilutive funding, right? I think it's something that can be viewed as a multiplier in terms of when other investors come in. It's extremely difficult to get, but it can be very beneficial, right? So, for instance, we in our early stage won some funding from the Irish government of about 2 million, and as much as the money, actually it was the partners that were with us. So we're engaged with IBM and MasterCard on this program. I would say it's a very tough tough road to get non-dilutive funding. It's extremely competitive, but it can bring big benefits in terms of the partnerships that you make in it, and also how it's viewed from investors coming in. That's the first one. The second one, I suppose, is around the pitch and your story. And my view would be, if your pitch and both your deck and your story isn't changing every couple of weeks, then you're probably not doing it correctly, right? You need to listen to the feedback, practice it, video yourself. I think it's so competitive today. You may only have those 5 minutes or those 10 minutes to impress, and I think getting your message crystal clear and refining that is critical, right? And then the third thing maybe I'd offer is, it's important to start as you move from sort of the first 50K or 100K into more larger funding rounds. It's important to build the advisory team, the board, and you can't do that overnight. So I would say, founders and senior members need to be thinking about scientific advisors that would be willing to come on, chairpersons of the board, directors. Again, I think as you move into the millions, investors are going to be looking at not just the experience of the direct team, but the advisory team and the extended team around it. And it's very helpful to have people who've done this before, been through it, and can advise the company. So that would be my three key tips.
Yeah, and I think it depends. As you said, you can't get an advisory board overnight. It depends a lot of trust, which people want to work together. That's also
absolutely, and you need to explain your story. You need, for somebody to vouch for the company, they need to understand what the company are doing, believe in it. So again, that's a journey, right? So you can't start that when you need it. You have to start it a long time before you actually need to have it in place.
Yes, you do. Jason, thank you very much. Now we come to Jenna. My question to you is also a long one. From your experience, what are the main legal challenges that founders face at the startup stage in comparison to the scale phase? How does Linkie Law Solicitors support them?
It's to be perfectly honest, it's quite difficult, I guess, to express that in one sentence. To be
yeah,
to
you
be
have two or three.
All of the challenges of the startups, but I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can. I think at the scale-up phase, everything becomes much more serious and much more real. And that relates to your commercial operations, that relates to your team, to fundraising. And normally this is the busiest time in terms of the phase of development in the life cycle, I guess, of the company. Where we get involved, because most of the time during the very early stage, the founders tend to do some of the address some of the legal matters themselves. They would set up the company. Obviously, they'll enter into some sort of relationship with the other founders. But then once you pass the friends and family round of funding and you get to a phase where you have professional investors that are getting interested in your company, that's when you need to sort yourself out and make sure that all of your shareholders' agreements, your articles are in proper order and ready for additional investors essentially to come in. Also, that's the time when your team is growing. So this is an opportunity to think about the option plans, to think about how to structure this in the most tax efficient way. And it's also a phase where your product is getting tested, right? So you need to rethink sometimes what is the relationship with your commercial counterparties, and that's exactly what we're assisting most of our clients with. In terms of what we do, I'll just be very brief. We essentially specialize in all things startup, and because we're based mostly in London, then we do work with quite a bit of fintech companies. So I can just repeat what George said about regulatory and the attention that needs to be paid, I guess, by each startup and each scale up really to the regulation that exists in the applicable jurisdiction. So in the case of the majority of our clients, that's obviously financial regulations, but obviously it depends on the area where you operate. And we support our clients on both contentious and non-contentious side of things, be it corporate, be it litigation. And we were regrettably for our clients was busy with 3 major quick cases this year. So one was just a complete Facebook scenario where a shareholder, co-founder, wakes up one day on the 4th of January and realizes that his shares were diluted from 47% to 0.000 something. And so, and that's of course something that normally happens when the company has already taken off and is showing positive results. So that was quite a fight that we managed to complete and win for the client in a most satisfactory way. So
yes. Oh, you go further.
Yeah, but I don't want to take more time from other speakers because I know that we just have 6 minutes left at this stage?
Yeah, we are. No, it's okay. We have 50 minutes right now. It's okay. I have the time in my view right here. So are you finished or you want to share anything?
I'm happy to speak to anyone who is interested in learning more, but I just would like to give an opportunity to others to also describe their views, I guess, on the challenges that are faced by the scale-ups.
Yes, and you also have an expo stand here, right? I think there's nearly everybody where can attendees join if there's questions or any requests or things like that. Huh? Thank you very much, Zena. Now, Nick, another try.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah, great. Challenge completed. Yes.
Oh yes.
Very good, Nick. First of all, I give you a question, but first you introduce yourself and what your company doing, huh?
Yeah, of course. So I'm the regional enterprise manager for NatWest across London and the South East, and effectively working with a whole host of different partners, reaching into different communities to help them with business concepts and ideas. Most of my time kind of working with founders who work through our accelerator program, which meets people very early on and certainly in those early stages. So there's a lot of lessons that we're able to glean from those fantastic community that we work with.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Now, my question is, you have a lot of, as you said, you have a lot of experience with supporting startups and scale-ups. And what's the key challenge that you most often see? How does your team support them to address these challenges? What is your main skill, I would say,
So I think in addition, I mean, some fantastic points everyone else has kind of raised, and would certainly agree with all of those. I suppose the only other two that I'd add, one is around mindset. The individual with that initial idea and that concept, to have the ability to kind of drive that passion forward, but with the receptiveness of feedback being being received as a gift as opposed to criticism, and that's a really important trait that we get to see. I think also certainly for the earlier stage businesses that we are lucky enough to work with, the issue around accountability is another key point. So quite often we'll hear about mentors being so important around various kind of skill sets, and absolutely the case. But also I do feel that there is a role for someone around accountability. And what I mean by that is through our accelerator program, we have regular check-ins with the same member of the team. And the first question at the check-in is, right, when we last met, you were going to do X, Y, and Z. How have you got on with that? And what it does, it really focuses the founder and the co-founding team's mind in terms of the real key tasks that they need to complete in order to get that business moving forward, and avoiding that drift that can sometimes be the case because of complexity, because so many options and sort of opportunities available. Really does focus the mind. I think that's an important discipline to have.
Yeah, that's true. So I hear, what I can hear is also about is that you have to be really close tracking what they are doing.
Yeah, it works. It's collaborative tracking. So it's about agreeing at the end of that last meeting. It's go, right, so we've had this review. This is where you are as a business. These are the key things. What are the top 2 or 3 tasks that you need to really nail, so that when we meet in a couple of weeks' time, they'll be the things we start off with. And it's that collaborative approach in them reviewing, thinking about what it is that they need to hit next, and then giving them all the help and support they need to try and do that. So it might be an introduction. It might be about doing some more research. So yeah, absolutely key.
Okay.
And
thank you very much, Nick.
Just to echo, sorry.
Yeah, I apologize that I'm disappearing in and out. I'm not sure what exactly is going on, but I've had problems with hopping in the past.
Well, we can hear right now really good. So, Philip, OVH Cloud. My question to you is, in most cases, cloud hosting infrastructure is required by startups and scale-ups as they grow in the early stage. What are the common considerations that they should take when building in the cloud, such as security, data sovereignty, and multi-cloud approaches? Oh, that's a lot.
Yes, it is quite a broad array of topics, but yeah, I'll give a brief introduction. So, I think when you're starting out as a startup, you want to maintain flexibility and interoperability. You don't really know how your tech stack is going to develop, and so you need to make sure that you don't get locked in with a particular provider, that you are able to interoperate with multiple providers. We actually see now most of our customers are working with more than one cloud provider, and obviously in terms of flexibility, working with open standards as much as possible also means that you're going to be more interoperable. And then part of being able to work with multiple clouds is being able to transfer data. So it's important to be able to move your data without there being exorbitant cost, which is effectively a form of a lock-in, where you don't want to, you don't feel like you can move your data because of the cost of that move. So what are the bandwidth charges on moving data and those kinds of things, and ultimately for us, when we start talking about data sovereignty, depending on where you are in the world, there are different data legislation, and you need to be able to comply with that. And that might mean actually working with a different cloud provider in a different area, because they, so for example, in Europe with GDPR, you can't have outside access of that data from outside of Europe. You want to know how, if that data is transferred out of Europe, what's going to happen. So you need to be working with a cloud provider that can give you the local coverage that you need, knowing that your customer data is where it is, where it needs to be, and it's being stored how it needs to be stored. And so for that reason, you need to be able to be interoperable and and flexible with moving, with moving data around and working with multiple providers, and also being able to access the best technology from the providers, because each provider has different technologies as well. So what is best for your use case? So that, flexibility is key. And it's about not going out there and finding, who's the cheapest or who's got the most features, but actually sitting down and thinking, what is my use case? What stage of development am I at? And who do I need to work with at the different stages as I grow and scale to make sure that that I can serve my customers in the best way and at the best kind of price.
Yes, thank you very much, Philip. Yeah, I think when you look 10 years back, Philip, I think there were a lot of prejudice about putting the infrastructure in the cloud. Yes, because they say it's not safe, not enough security, and things like that. Does that went down, or are the same arguments on the other customer side?
Yeah, so I think in some industries there are still those concerns. Where they feel like the data needs to be on premise, and either that's a requirement of the customer or of the industry. But the reality is that as a cloud provider, our business is to make sure that our infrastructure is redundant and all those good things. So in a way, we're handling those problems around security and making sure that your data is accessible and available.
Thank you very much, Philip. So we have nearly 6 minutes. A question to all of you, to the panel. Yeah, you're coming from a startup to a scale up, and maybe at the end a unicorn. What are your challenges in your companies? Is it about structure? Is it about culture, organization? What are the most challenges you have? Yes, because if you are 10 people and you hire people, everybody knows another one to hire someone, but at the end, your network is over and you need other things. So what are your challenges? Culture, organization, because you don't have an organization in a startup. I saw a lot of time.
Maybe I can chime in on the first part of that. I mean, I would agree with that, and actually I would layer on top this whole work from home and COVID and actually trying to build a culture in the environment we're in is, there's extra challenges on top of that. So I think, yes, not only have you the challenge of new people coming in and explaining to them you have this environment we're in at the moment where we're not really meeting each other all that much in person. So I think that's a challenge, and I think what you need to do is sort of over communicate and have as many video. So one thing is having people put on their video on meetings, right? I think there's that's one thing that I think helps feel like you're in an actual meeting. But yeah, that's certainly one of the challenges that we see as we scale the company.
I might add to that. I mean, I definitely feel that we have the same challenges, Jason, particularly in COVID. But everything you mentioned as a potential example of a challenge, Marco, exists for us and more. I would say it's a bit of a corny phrase by now, but making the most important thing the most important thing. That is something that we struggle with on almost a daily basis, because I think, Nick, actually, what you said really chimed with me. There's so many different things that we could be doing or that we'd like to be doing, and all of which could or would bring value, but we're not able to do all of those things. So identifying the ones that are absolutely the most important things to focus on, that are potential showstoppers or that are part of the critical pathway or whatever fancy term you want to use. But making the most important thing is a daily challenge, and I think something that ideally you want to try and get ingrained into the culture of the whole company. So as you scale, that's something that becomes even more challenging because you're asking every individual to do that and to contribute to that.
Yeah.
I was chairing a roundtable of startups and scale-ups last night, actually, and we were talking a bit about skills shortages. And, just responding to what George was saying about the main thing being the main thing, what came up was, whether you're hiring somebody or looking for skills or whether you're trying to retain people, and it speaks to culture, is what are the values of the organization? And are you using that to help you hire the right people and also retain them in terms of, are you understanding what their values are as an employer? And that's a hard thing when you're a startup or a scale up and you're running hard and there's so many different things that are going on. So I think, for a startup or a scale up to clearly define their values and use that as like a foundation, particularly from a team point of view, I think is really going to, because values ultimately define the culture, because who we are in a team is what's ultimately going to be the culture of the company. So I think that's a challenge to try and solve as early on in the life of the startup or scale up as possible, so that you can then communicate that clearly and hire and retain people because you're living those values.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just add as well around the planning is never say it's going to be easy, but that's kind of one part of the jigsaw puzzle. But the implementation of that planning is absolutely crucial, and the businesses that prioritize implementation of those effects, particularly as an organization gets bigger, they are the ones that tend to be more successful. And then secondly is one fantastic example of, I talked about mindset earlier. There's this organization that did do hugely well that we were lucky enough to kind of work alongside, and they were at a kind of a session with helping some up and coming founders, and the lady who was the co-founder actually shared with us the fact that what they did at a certain point is they wrote themselves out of the organization. So they, as a management team, knew they had a skill set to get to a certain point, but beyond that required a completely different team. And I found that so powerful that team sort of knew that, they were open, they were honest with each other. They knew they could get to a certain level, but then for the company to continue to kick on, it needed this new group of people. And that kind of blew my mind.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Now, time is over right now. I have to say thanks a lot to you. Yes, thank you for joining the panel here. Thanks for sharing your experience and also for your hints. Hope to see you on LinkedIn. And if anybody from the audience has some questions, you go in the chat or to the expo stand if you like. And if this events will happen next year, I hope we meet in person.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thanks, everybody.
It was lovely to speak.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
Nice to meet everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.